right? You want to make sure you're living a fulfilled life, and I know we're talking about cybersecurity, but I do want to say that occasionally I like to provide some perspective, because I think the technology and the tech, they're just tools, and you got other things in your tool belt that you need to fill up, like the ability to influence change, the ability to influence others, the ability to help others and reach others, right? I think is an important thing to do, because if you can't do that, your technical skills won't be enough. You'll be replaceable, right? So there's a few things I want to talk about today before we get into the hacking, if that's all right. One of them is going to be on leadership, because if you can have all these skills, you can have all this talent, and about all these technologies, but if you can't influence change, you might not even get to the point inside of that organization where you can even be in the room making those decisions. So what I'm saying is, if you want to be in the room, you got to think about leadership. You also got to think about influence, and you got to think about, well, what is the reason I'm here? What do I need to work on? What are some things that I can do to impact the culture, right? Because that's just what you got to do. Now, I know most of us, we can just cruise doing, the bare minimum, but I'm not a bare minimum type of person. And I feel like for some of you that are tuning in, you're not bare minimum either, right? So I'm just saying, you've got something in front of you. So step into it. And it might be something you need that's technology related, like a skill to go to the next level in your career or whatever. But most times, that's why you wonder how did that person get that job? Well, they were better at doing something like influence, right? Something like influencing, a situation, a bad situation, and they made it better. And it might not have been from their tech skills, right? It could have been from their ability to work with people. So this is something I've been learning over time, that it's not just about mastery. But don't get me wrong, your technical mastery in IT will get you far, right? Because people recognize the need for that. But if you can't conduct yourself in a professional manner, you always need somebody to be able to speak for you on your behalf. Do you want to be able to speak on your own behalf, or would you rather others speak on your behalf? It's either way. I'm neither here nor there, but I think if you're good enough, other people will speak so positively about you that your reputation will precede you, right? And just so you know, some people don't like to see your light shine. So when you are going, you may actually have some people that want to defeat you. I'm not joking about this. This is a real thing. If you've ever been in a workplace or an environment that has any level of hierarchy, you can sense there's a power struggle, right? And there's a great book I read that, kind of talks about how you can watch power struggles and how you can really watch power, because power is it's definitely a factor, right? Power, your boss has it, or you may have it. So power is very, influential. So when you watch the structures and how power is built into organizations, you start to see ways to break into it, right? That's why you can have all the degrees and all the credentials and everything in the world, but if you don't have that ability to impact change, you may hit a wall that's going to hold you down. So before we get into hacking today, I would like to show you a presentation I put together. I promise you, it's like 3 slides, and it's all pictures. But I think there's power to this talk. So this is what I call using your newness to lead, a guide on addressing the elephants in the room. So if you're new to IT or new to any industry, I think that you could really benefit from hearing this, right? Because your skills and your credentials are not enough to make a positive change. You have to choose to do that. Your skills, those are all tools, and they matter, don't get me wrong, but they don't matter as much as your willingness to do the right thing. So we're going to go over here to the next slide, right? This was inspired by this idea that, hey, you know, for me, I remember I've had some struggles in my career where I've felt like in times I was blaming others for how far I was getting, or how influential or how impactful I was. And it's not all about influence, but it is a lot about, you know, are they going to respect what you have to say, right? So you have to show people that, and that's a trust thing. But I have an associate's degree in some IT certifications, and I was able to become a college professor, right? Yeah, I'm still in my 20s, so I'm just saying, like, you can excel, you can find verticals that go and take you to the moon, people that take you to the moon. So it's not always about experience. So this is a guide to addressing the elephant in the room, right? Here's this elephant, beautiful, right? And that, you know, just had a long memory. If you've ever read anything or watched anything about an elephant, you will know that one of their key characteristics is that they have great memory. But, you know, other than looking at the majestic beauty of this beast, I think that this elephant in the room is a saying that we use to explain the problem that you see and that others see that nobody's addressing. Have you ever been in that situation where you see the elephant in the room? Everybody sees it, but nobody's doing anything about it. I think it can tear organizations apart. I think it can tear teams apart. And I think it can cripple you, like, in your career. Yeah. So, like, the elephant in the room for me was quality of education. And when I started talking about it, and I met my mentor who helped me see it, it started to become apparent that there needed to be a change. So I've been stepping into that through Twitch, teaching on Twitch, making education more accessible. And then where I'm at in the college environment, I really want to change college or in education on a systematic level. And that's what I want to be a part of. But I've had situations where, you know, I was not addressing the elephant in the room, and it blew up into chaos, right? Where you look at, you know, early stages of your career, you may be just trying to show what you can do, but you see a lot of problems, and sometimes you can watch people around you sail at what seems to be another level than you, and you're wondering, why are they making it further? And you may be saying, like, why can't I get to that position? Well, it's all a courage thing. This is the elephant in the room. So you may see at work an opportunity to do a certain project, or an idea for a business, or an idea for a place you want to apply. And that's just the elephant in the room for you. It follows you around wherever you go. So as soon as you address that elephant in the room, you're going to actually grow. So focus on that. You know, and I think in the workplace, it's really a temptation to not be yourself, right? And when I say that, I don't mean like going crazy, buck wild, like unhinged. I'm saying like just being you, not pretending to be somebody else that you're not at work, because that can make you timid, right? You have to step into who you are, right? And just be aware, hey, this is me and this is me and all of me, right? And if you don't like that, I'm gonna go somewhere else, right? And it'll be okay. Trust me, it'll be okay. You know, I don't lie on my resume. I'll tell you why. Because even if I got the job lying, then it wouldn't be sustainable, because eventually the lie and the house of cards would all fall apart. It would all come falling down, right? Because it's, it was built on lies. It was built on a weak foundation. So the elephant in the room, maybe you just stepping into who you are. Maybe, like, honestly, like just admitting, hey, look, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm gonna do, right? And you're gonna need permission along the way, right? Where some things you need to ask your employer about, I don't know, tuition reimbursement, or you need to ask your employer about giving you more flexible hours so you can work on your dream or what a project, or just bringing up a project. I think you could see the very thing you see as the main issue could actually be the main opportunity for you to excel, and not just you, but for you to help everybody in the process. Because I would say that in most cases, the elephant in the room is something that if it was made better, everybody in the room would be happier, right? And probably would be grateful, right? So don't you want to be seen as a problem solver? And don't get me wrong, you don't actually have to be that technical to be a problem solver. Yes, in IT there's technical problems that surface, but really if you can solve people problems, you've beat the game. I mean, you've almost beat half the game, I'd say. So 50% of it at least is a people issue, right? Whether it's a misconfiguration of something, or it's a disagreement, people aren't on the same page. I've noticed, and I'm not saying this, I don't think I'm perfect, because I've run into all this. The only reason I'm so familiar with these concepts because I've been in those situations myself. And communication is the root of it. So, like, what are you communicating? What are the expectations that you're managing? Are you basically silent? Do you not talk at all, or keep up with anybody, or your bosses? Do you fear your bosses? That's one thing. Like, some organizations, they like to use fear to govern their employees, and that's not a place I like to work. And if I am working there, I will say something about it in an attempt to change it until I get fired. So, like, you just got to kind of confront the worst case scenario too. So if you look at, just cultures and the way they are, and people are being governed by fear, and there's others that see that and feel that, then someone hasn't said something yet, or someone hasn't attempted to change it in a progressive way. Because it shouldn't always be this adversarial thing between managers, leaders, and the people that work with them. I think it can come from, like, just mismanaged expectations and a lack of communication, right, between each other, to be open and transparent. Because people are gonna make mistakes. Like, I'm gonna make a mistake. Look, people, if you could keep a running tally of all the mistakes I'll make on this stream, right? So you bounce back from them, you respond to them, you keep it moving. But you don't have to act like you got to be perfect, right? But you do want to try to do a great job, right? So these are all some things you think about when you're addressing the elephant in the room. Culture, it's a problem, and normally I would say it's something that you see, and you may be frustrated with others because the problem's not getting solved to your expectations because you're not getting involved, right? So I think you hear some leaders say, don't bring a problem to me, bring to me a solution, which can be kind of dismissive, but also you think about the correlation between those two, and you've got to consider, like, leaders as problem solvers, and I guess budget managers and people that guard budgets and make decisions like that, and ultimately make the end decision. and you have to put it in their language, right? So whatever the problem you see, you have to explain it to them in such a way that they can see the value in knowing about the problem. Because if you just make someone feel like you're just dumping a problem on them, then you may also appear to be the problem, even if you aren't. Which is why it's always good to at least provide a next step. You don't need the whole solution, right? You don't need the solution to, the world's problem or that whole problem unless you can. But if you can't, just provide a recommended direction. Get the conversation going. Make sure it's progressive, not like too combative, right? And like judgy. Like, don't ever isolate one single person, because that's an attack on somebody and their character. Why not just address the actual problem, right? Because in most cases, it's not just one person. It's something. It's a cultural thing, or a systematic issue, right? That no one's talking about. And that's why nothing gets done within the organization, or not a lot gets done, because people are too afraid to address it, right? Whether they ultimately you can talk about fear, right? Why are you scared in the workplace? I had a healthy bit of that when I first started in my career. I had a good bit of fear in the workplace, and it was like I didn't want to make mistakes. And it did drive me to be, try to be more precise. And it still does. But it's not as much of a concern or a fear as it is like now I'm fully aware that at some point I'm going to make a mistake that I'll adapt from. So the mistake just becomes a learning experience. Have you ever heard FAIL? What FAIL really stands for? It's your first attempt in learning, right? Look at some of the leaders of history. They all have their story of how bad it was at one point. And what they didn't do is give up, right? Maybe they felt like they needed to give up, but they kept going. They kept working and being persistent, right? And I think that's the importance of finding something in a career or an industry that you can really get passionate about, and you get excited about that field. And even get some fulfillment out of it, because Steve Jobs said you're gonna quit otherwise, right? Like, you'll probably quit if you don't like what you're doing, even if you can do it. Like, some people soldier through it, like they can do for several years, right? They can just soldier through doing something they hate for something they know, they gotta pay for things, but they're making that choice to stay there, so you have that option. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna step into it, or are you gonna be afraid to? Or are you gonna let fear, because fear is gonna come too, just like failure. Are you gonna let fear prevent you from stepping into who you are, right? That's a question. All right, let's go over here. Here's this last slide, I promise. Natural career progression is an important thing to think about, right? So where are you in your career? Where are you? If someone asks you, what are you working on? Well, how would you explain that, right? Would you say, I'm a programmer that's working on and working towards developing autonomous vehicles for the future of autonomous, transport? Or are you a network admin or a system admin or a help desk person saying, I'm gonna use my technical skills and love of the technology to help others and empower others with their technology? Are you that person? Or are you in education and you want to change the way that technology is taught? And you want to challenge the norms of education, that it may not take 4 years, it may not take 2 years to get a good education, that you could get on Twitch, you could get online and just curate your own educational experience. But with the right educational organization, you may be able to enhance this level of speed that you can learn at, or you could get access to equipment and materials that you normally couldn't afford, because some industries cost a lot of money, right? Like if you want to get hands-on with actual switches and routers, or actual data centers, you want to be in that environment, like you've got to be there, right? So natural career progression is important. Where are you in your career? Where do you want to be? That's probably the more important part, because you shouldn't feel down if you don't feel like you're as far ahead as you should be, because you're right where you need to be, right? You're in the now. So what do you want to do next, right? What do you want to do moving forward with your career? And then of course, when you find that answer, what do you need to do that, right? I think you can take inventory of yourself and look at your interests. What are you interested in? If you're here, you're obviously interested in IT, tech, cybersecurity, but if you're doing this on your free time, you're going to make it. You're going to make it because you got something different. You got passion, interest. So keep going with that. So I would say there's a few steps in your career progression from my perspective so far. When you start out in an organization, you're coming in new. You got training and cultural integration. Those are the goals for you, I think. So going in, you got to consider the dynamics of the professional environment. And you also have to understand what skills that do you need on a day-to-day basis that could help you be good at your job and maybe even continue to get better. And that's kind of what training and cultural integration should be built around. Some organizations don't have an onboarding process because they just need help. So if you're a technical person, then coming into a situation like that, there may be people just saying, "Hey, we know tech, but we need a tech guy or a tech gal. Someone help us for this issue." They don't know how to articulate it because that's not their job. So I would say don't expect everybody to be a tech person. Some people just respect your opinion and they want to learn from you and they want to use you as their tech person. That's what the industry is built on, right? Helping other people with their tech, empowering them with tech, and fixing their tech, or building, their business, right? Like some people, have CTOs, which are like chief technology officers that run their businesses, and, on the technical side of the business, right? Like if you look at the recent gentleman that just took over as CEO of Amazon, he's a cloud-minded person. So it's pretty cloudy out there in IT right now. There's a lot of cloud going on. It's either in Amazon's data centers or Microsoft's data centers. So, you kind of got to understand the aim of the organization, as you enter in as a new person, and to kind of understand the culture. And then trust, right? You have to establish that. Why should people trust you? That's a question you need to ask. Why would they trust what you're saying? If you're going to say something, is what you're saying true or accurate? Can they rely on you to do what you've said? So, if you're able to build that trust, especially if you're able to declare what you can do and then you show them that you can do it. That's the best thing you can do with anybody to build trust, is show them they can trust you. Do something, right? Do something that shows a gesture of appreciation. Send a nice email. Uplift your boss, right? Go into that person's, or uplift your employees or your team if you're a leader. And, they'll be able to trust you, right? Sometimes it's a technical thing where, whoever has those chops and that skill set, they're gonna trust them more than others because of their knowledge on the subject, right? But I think a lot of it just stems from problem solving, as we've learned earlier. Is if you can get the trust, then you're breaking into a level of just problem solving, right? Look for opportunities to grow, issues that you think are hindering the organization, and just start solving problems. Call on people, help people, ask for help, partner up. Don't be afraid to partner up between departments within an organization. Autonomy is when you hit this point where it's like you're trusted, you got problem solving, and now you don't have to be watched, right? You've probably got a team. You're working well with your team, and it's almost like it feels automatic, right? It's like if you're a sports fan and you've ever seen a team that's in the zone, like they just are in sync with one another, it's almost like effortless. They're just having fun doing it. But if it's overly laborious, it's almost like something's not right, And I don't get me wrong, working hard matters, and you're gonna have those times where you're tired and you stayed up late. But you definitely want to be on teams that can balance each other out. You can't tell me the founders at Apple weren't enjoying what they were doing every step of the way. Like, just watching this thing become a behemoth, right? People are starting to use the computers. People are starting to adopt them, and they're starting to make hundreds of millions and then into the billions. Like, you can't tell me right now that Elon Musk is not having fun. He's having fun doing all these different things. He has autonomy, right? Yes, and if you're a business owner, it's common to say, I want to be a business owner because I want to be my own boss. But there's kind of a issue with that statement, and that's, if you're a business owner, you're probably serving customers, so the customers are your boss. So you'll never get rid of that kind of like serving somebody else mindset, or doing something for somebody else mindset. But you will get to a point where it's much less of them defining everything you do, right? It gets to a point where you start explaining opportunities and creating them, right? And then you pull other people in to create opportunities, right? So whether it's in business or in building teams, because I've built teams to teach. I've built teams to look and hire others. I've been on hiring committees where you have to find a new leader for a position. And good teams, I've been on good teams and I've been on bad teams, right? I've been on teams that were, you could tell we weren't gelling like we were supposed to, right? So, and me, that I didn't do anything about it, right? So like that, I'm not, no judgment. But then I've been on great teams, right? So autonomy, and that's my spiel. I've given that a couple times. I need to keep running through it, because every time I run through it, I get some different ideas.